Welcome to Important Updates, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you are new here, do not forget to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an update. I bet you didn't know just how close the world came to crisis in the South China Sea in 2025. May 12, 2025. The first light of dawn crept across the South China Sea, painting the horizon in soft golden blue. The Maria Clara, a humble Filipino fishing boat, worked the waters near Scarborough Shoal as generations had before them, casting nets in hopes of a bountiful catch. But the crew's hopes for a good catch vanished in an instant as a Chinese Coast Guard cutter appeared on the horizon, growing larger and more menacing as it bore down on them. The cutter's horn blared, a sharp, jarring sound that shattered the morning calm. It was a warning, not a greeting. Over the roar of the engines, a loudspeaker declared the waters Chinese territory, demanding the fishermen leave immediately or face consequences. The men, fishing on their ancestral grounds, had no choice but to abandon their nets and flee, hearts pounding as they left behind their only means of livelihood. As they turned to escape, the Chinese ship surged past, its massive wake nearly capsizing the Maria Clara, tossing the small boat like a toy in the churning water. Tools scattered across the deck, and the men clung desperately to the rails, fear and disbelief etched on their faces as the sea heaved beneath them. The cutter then blocked their path back, a wall of steel and authority, making escape seem impossible. This was more than a warning, it was a calculated show of force, a message sent not just to the fishermen, but to an entire nation. The incident, witnessed and recorded by a journalist on board, was just one of many that year, each one adding fuel to a growing fire. The South China Sea had become a stage for confrontation, where livelihoods, national pride, and international law collided daily. The Maria Clara's ordeal was not unique. Dozens of Filipino boats faced similar threats, their stories echoing across the archipelago. It was a symptom of a much larger struggle, one involving warships, fighter jets, and the ambitions of superpowers vying for control. The world watched, anxious and uncertain as the balance of power shifted on the waves and headlines warned of escalation. For the fishermen, it was a fight for survival, for the right to work the seas that had fed their families for centuries. For the region, it was a flashpoint with global consequences, drawing in leaders and diplomats from across Asia and beyond. The tension was palpable, the stakes immense, as every day brought new risks and uncertainty. In 2025, the South China Sea was a powder keg, its calm surface hiding deep currents of conflict, and every encounter, like this one, threatened to light the fuse, reminding the world how quickly peace can give way to crisis. The South China Sea is a global artery, one of the most crucial waterways on the planet, connecting continents and economies in a vast network of trade. Every year, 1/3 of all global shipping, worth trillions of dollars, passes through these narrow straits carrying everything from electronics to raw materials. Oil and goods flow from Asia to the world, fueling industries and homes, making these waters absolutely vital for economies everywhere. Beneath the surface lie vast reserves of oil and gas, energy independence and immense wealth for whoever controls them, making the stakes even higher. The sea also feeds millions. Its rich fisheries are lifelines for coastal communities, providing jobs and daily sustenance. When access is blocked, it's not just politics, it's survival for families, as livelihoods and food security hang in the balance. That's why the stakes are so high. Tensions here can quickly escalate, drawing in regional and global powers. A conflict here could disrupt global supply chains, spike energy prices, and trigger economic shockwaves that would be felt worldwide. The US, Australia, Japan, and the UK insist on freedom of navigation, arguing that no single nation should control these critical waters. The South China Sea is more than a regional dispute. It's a test of international law and cooperation. It's a global flashpoint, where trade, energy, and food security all intersect, shaping the future for billions. The world's prosperity sails through these contested waves, making stability here essential for everyone. That's why everyone is watching. Governments, businesses, and ordinary people alike. The stakes are not just regional, they're universal, touching every corner of the globe. What happens here affects us all, shaping the world's future in ways we can't ignore. The South China Sea disputes are centuries old, rooted in overlapping claims and history. China's 9-dash line, drawn in the 1940s, covers nearly the entire sea. China cites ancient maps and voyages as proof, but neighbors, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, disagree. International law, especially UNCLOS, gives these countries rights to waters off their coasts. In 2016, an international tribunal sided with the Philippines, rejecting China's sweeping claims. China dismissed the ruling, accelerating its island building and militarization. Artificial islands sprouted runways, harbors, and missile sites, changing the reality on the water. The message was clear: China would enforce its claims by strength, not law. The legal battle was over, but the struggle for control had just begun. The region braced for a new era of confrontation. History's shadow loomed over every wave. The year 2025 marked a dramatic escalation in confrontations at sea and in the air, with tensions rising to levels not seen in years. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels repeatedly harassed Filipino and Vietnamese boats, using powerful water cannons and imposing blockades to assert their presence. These so-called gray zone tactics, aggressive maneuvers that stopped just short of outright war, were designed to assert control and intimidate rivals, all without triggering open conflict. Swarms of Chinese fishing boats acting in coordination formed floating blockades that denied access to disputed reefs and strategic waters, further raising the stakes. In the skies above, Chinese fighter jets buzzed U.S. and allied surveillance planes, coming dangerously close and increasing the risk of a mid-air incident. In one particularly alarming incident, a Chinese fighter jet cut directly in front of a U.S. Navy plane, forcing it through turbulent wake and putting both crews at risk. Each encounter carried the risk of miscalculation, a crash, a spark, or even a sudden crisis that could spiral out of control. These near misses became almost routine, fueling global anxiety and making the world wonder how long this dangerous game could continue. The South China Sea became a chessboard of brinkmanship, with every move calculated and every response scrutinized by the world. Every maneuver, every decision carried the risk of disaster, as military personnel operated under immense pressure. The world watched with bated breath, wondering if the next close call would be the one that finally went too far and triggered a crisis. Tension became the new normal, a constant presence in these contested waters. The margin for error was razor thin, and every day brought the world closer to the edge. At the heart of the crisis, U.S.-China rivalry. The U.S. claims no territory but insists on open seas for all. American warships regularly sailed near China's artificial islands, challenging Beijing's claims. China responded with its own warships, shadowing and warning the Americans. Radio exchanges were tense, each side asserting its rights, neither backing down. Ships sometimes passed within hundreds of yards, a collision always a possibility. Both sides increased their military presence, U.S. carrier groups, Chinese naval exercises. The sea grew crowded, the risk of an accident ever higher. Allies watched, reassured by U.S. resolve, wary of escalation. China aimed to show it wouldn't be intimidated. The South China Sea became a stage for power and resolve. Every maneuver was a message. The world held its breath as the dance continued. Beyond the headlines, ordinary lives were upended. Fishermen from the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia faced harassment. Nets cut, boats rammed, livelihoods threatened. "We used to fish freely," one Filipino said. "Now we're scared. The big ships chase us away." Empty nets meant hungry families. Traders and small shippers faced new dangers and rising costs as military tensions grew. Local economies suffered, insurance soared, and fear replaced routine. Protests erupted in Manila and Hanoi. Citizens demanding action, governments caught between outrage and caution. The sense of violation ran deep, national pride and personal dignity at stake. The crisis was not just about strategy, it was about survival. The sea that once united communities now divided them. The human cost was mounting. Every confrontation left scars on real people. The voices from the water could not be ignored. Diplomacy stalled as tensions rose. ASEAN and China's talks for a code of conduct dragged on, mired in disagreements. Southeast Asian nations wanted binding rules. China preferred vague promises. Critics accused Beijing of stalling while it built and militarized islands. ASEAN's consensus model made unity difficult. Some members sided with China, weakening the group's leverage. The US and allies urged respect for international law, but China called their involvement interference. The result: endless talks, little progress, and unchecked actions at sea. The diplomatic process was paralyzed. Meanwhile, the situation on the water grew more dangerous. Words failed as ships and planes pressed ever closer. The South China Sea crisis sent shockwaves worldwide. US allies, Japan, Australia, the Philippines, watched America's response as a test of its credibility. Many boosted their own defenses and deepened alliances. European navies joined patrols, signaling global concern. Economic uncertainty grew. Shipping companies mapped costly alternate routes, supply chains shifted, and corporations diversified away from China. The crisis challenged the rules-based order, raising questions about the future of international law. China's actions signaled a new era, might versus right. The world faced a choice: uphold the rules or let power decide. The South China Sea became the front line of this global debate. The consequences reached far beyond Asia. Every nation had a stake in the outcome. The world's order was on the line. As the year ended, the South China Sea remained tense, unresolved. The risk of conflict was real, but so was the hope for restraint. The status quo, gray zone tactics, patrols, protests could persist, dangerous but short of war. Some hoped for a breakthrough, a binding code of conduct, clear rules, and crisis hotlines to prevent escalation. Real peace would require compromise and courage from all sides. The future depended on choices in Beijing, Washington, and Southeast Asia. The world hoped for open seas, respected law, and safe livelihoods. 2025 was a warning: how quickly things could spiral. The challenge for the future: heed that warning and choose peace over conflict. The path is uncertain, but the stakes could not be higher. The world watches, hoping for calm after the storm. The South China Sea's fate remains unwritten,